Lee Payne from east of Lyra. Just going to do a few interview questions with the man himself.
Great, there we go.
Okay.
Hello everyone.
So, first question, what inspired you to start this project?
Well, I suppose it's a long time coming, because the very first Cloven Hoof band back in 1979, they were all absolutely massive sort of prog rock fans and Rush fans, and we could have gone two ways originally, Cloven Hoof, because we had a sort of a dual love of prog rock and aggressive heavy metal, and in the end we kind of progressed into heavy metal, which is, you know, quite aggressive and stuff. But we always had kind of prog rock sort of leanings in terms of song structures. That's why I think we were kind of unique back in the day, because we kind of had these sort of different sort of song structures, and they kind of told a story which a lot of prog bands sort of do, and particularly kind of like sort of a Genesis, where the whole album was devoted to one kind of subject matter, and that sort of lends itself to sort of long tracks, sort of 9-10 minutes kind of thing, whereas most sort of metal bands it's sort of 5 minutes, and the song structures are kind of, you know, sort of verse, chorus, you know, kind of things, and but we kind of stretched them out, and we saw songs as musical movements, okay, which prog rock bands did, and we kind of dispensed with the like predictable sort of verse chorus kind of structures, especially in tracks like Gates of Henna and Return of the Passover. So really we sort of what we were doing then has now been sort of adopted and called sort of power metal, and they kind of recognise us for being sort of pioneers of that. And it wasn't a conscious decision, because we were just sort of playing the music which we liked at the time. And it's just sort of the power metal is just a kind of a term which got sort of attached to the sort of music which bands like ourselves are kind of doing. So that's great. You know, we weren't sort of set out to be pioneers of anything at all. It just sort of happened. So we did a track in the early days called Starship Sentinel, which was a little bit more sort of prog rock on our very first sort of album, Ritual EP. It was very sort of different, and so what I always wanted to do, I wanted to explore the sort of prog rock thing a little bit further, but not at sort of the expense of sort of our heavy metal kind of leanings. So I thought, you know, I'll just save all the ideas on one side, and one day, you know, who knows, we might be able to make that prog album. So, so since 1979, it's taken me this long to actually sort of get Cloven Hoof to where it's supposed to be. Okay. So now's the time to sort of bring out the sort of prog rock album that I always wanted to make. So, and East of Lyra is the vehicle to do that with.
And do you think the sound of prog has changed over the years? Yes,
I think, you know, it definitely has, because you know, in the sort of early days it was sort of more sort of crude sort of recording techniques, and but in those days there's sort of a hang up towards you know, some of the tracks are kind of a drag on. A lot of bands would just get you know, some really good ideas, but there were a lot of sort of padding in the tracks. Prog these days is a lot more sort of immediate, really, and sort of much sort of dynamic, and sort of well, it's far better sort of recorded these days. So obviously, sort of doing this sort of prog thing now, it had to have a really good sort of modern kind of sound. But I wanted to capture the sort of magic of you know, sort of the retro sort of interesting subject matter, and all the multi-time changes and stuff, and make it kind of epic. So yeah, it's you know, it's well recorded, it's very sort of layered, and it's more sort of concise than the old sort of retro stuff used to be.
Okay, fair enough. And what kind of, so moving on, so what sort of setup do you use for for your recording.
Oh yeah, at last, at last I got to use my my Rickenbacker because I've with Cloven Hoof with the heavy metal sort of sound. I use Spectre basses because it's very sort of drivey, and I got the chance to use my Chris Squire limited edition 4001 Rickenbacker bass. And I just adore that sound, and I sort of got when I first bought that bass, it was cost me sort of £1,200, you know, like, and that was still a lot in those days, you know, it's quite expensive when I bought the bass, and then I had to sort of pawn all my guitars to clear up sort of legal hassle we had once.
Okay.
So I went and I had to sell it, and this year I went and bought my original bass back. Bearing in mind it cost me sort of £1,200, and it cost me basically 5,000 quid to buy it
Jeez,
back.
really?
Yeah, really. So I kept the guys. I mean, they're very, very rare. There's only 1,000 in the world of this. It's a real sort of limited edition bass, and there wasn't any more made than 1,000. So the price has just gone up, and but I kept the number of the guy I originally sold it to, and he moved to America. So after the American tour, I saved up my money and stuff, and I went and bought my bass back, which was fantastic. But it's not, it didn't make very much economic sense, you know, when you consider how much more it cost me. But I'm just glad to have it back. You know?
Well, I mean, sometimes you can't put a value on something that means something.
Oh, that's right. You know, I mean, to me, it's just I never got over selling it in the first place. You know, I really missed it, and you know, the neck's fabulous on it, and you know, it's just got this sort of growl sound. You know, you just plug it in and it growls away anyway. You know, like I could, you know, never replace it really. So I'm just glad that I've got it back.
And did you use this bass for the recording of the album?
Yeah, totally. All of Lyra was done in my Chris Squire limited edition. I use. I mean, the cool thing is it's a mono bass, but it's split into 2 amps. So I have one amp with the sort of growly kind of sound, and the other one I just keep like the bass. So you kind of mix the 2 kind of sounds. It's very sort of unique sound, and it just perfectly suits the Lyra project. You know.
Fantastic. So who usually does the writing for the band? Who writes the lyrics? Who does the
I guess it's like with Cloven Hoof, you know, like I just been saving up these sort of ideas over the years, and you know, you have to write so much material just to get that much, you know, because you're always kind of picking the best bits. So in all that time, I've amassed quite a lot of sort of the prog-rock stuff. So if everybody likes the Lyra one, I mean, I can certainly do another one. You know, like we got a lot of material, and so it's just basically, you know, you're saving, you know, going through all this material, and in the end you just pick the best bits and really sort of work on them. And you know, the main thing is they've got to be sort of storylines, because I always work from a melody first or a hook line, you know, in the chorus, and that kind of work sort of outwards, and I find it the best way of doing it. And you know, I like them to tell a story, because I see songs as like sort of self-contained, like movies in a way, you know. So they've you know, got a beginning, middle, end and stuff, you know, like.
Okay, yeah.
And so you know, a lot of sort of prog rock bands sort of do that. It's not just thrown together a load of guitar riffs or whatever it is, you know. Like I like it to be really sort of well structured and well thought about, and it's like with Lyra, it's very sort of structured and layered. So every time, you know, I go back to listen to the album, I can hear a new bit which I forgot about, kind of thing.
And how are you guys? What's the creative process like for you guys? Are you guys coming together and creating the album, or are you guys kind of on your own and then you come back and developing things?
It's kind of well, what happens is I go in with the original song structure. I went into Chris Dando's studio, Vault Studio in Kingswinford. Chris Dando's not only the singer of Lyra, but he's sort of a world-class keyboard player, and he's a brilliant studio engineer. So I go in with a song, and we kind of sort of map it out, you know, get all these sort of drum sections together. Then I play all the guitar, on there, like a guide guitar. And I put the bass down for real, and then we get the guitarist Ash came in, and he took like all my guitar sections, and he sort of learnt those bits, and they kind of refined it like over the top, and sort of then it's kind of pieced together like a jigsaw once I put all the original sort of track down. And you know, you'll have to excuse the vocals up and down because that's they're not the best at times. I mean, I'm pretty good at backing vocals and stuff, but you know, with a great, you know, when you're showing all these bits to somebody who can really sing well, you know, it can be quite embarrassing at times. But it's great. So you know, then everybody, funnily enough, the drums were kind of put on later because we had all the click tracks, and he had to, you know. That's why Bristow, the drummer, is such a fabulous drummer, because there's a lot of drummers that can't play to click tracks, and he's so accurate in the studio that it sort of enabled us to really sort of have very, very kind of structured drums at the end, and there's no sort of cheating with people using Pro Tools and all these drum samples and stuff. He, you know, do the real thing on there. So, you know, it's great working with such brilliant musicians, you know.
That's fantastic. So, what was your favourite part of this project?
Actually seeing it this morning. You know, like when you make an album, it's great, you know, I enjoy the process of sort of writing it, you know, say you're sort of at your studio in your bedroom, you know, and you hear the initial ideas, and then you're excited with that. And then the best bit is when you actually pick up the final sort of product, like I did earlier. You know, first time I've seen it, and what a great job everyone's done on it. You know, like I kind of looked at the cover, and it's sort of, my first impression was it's a little bit like Genesis, sort of a nursery rhyme. It's got that Victorian kind of sort of look with the sailing ship and stuff, and it lends itself perfectly to the great big epic Siren Song track, you know, like, which is about the Marie Celeste. So, you know, you did really good, you know, like record label did great on that.
And how did you come up with the name East of Lyra?
For all those Rush fans out there, there's a song called Cygnus on the Farewell to Kings album, and there's a line in it which says, you know, east of Lyra, northwest of Pegasus. So it's kind of a little Rush reference there, which I'm sure the fans will kind of pick up, you know. Like. So yeah, that's how we can. You know, Neil Peart must have the you know, full credit for that one, because you know, we took it directly from one of his lyrics. So.
Can you describe the sound of the project and how it differs from Cloven Hoof?
Well, absolutely.
Yeah. We can't. I mean, we kind of touched on that briefly at the start. But.
Yeah, absolutely. The actual sound of East of Lyra, it's much more layered and structured, and there's much more sort of space, like in the music. And because it's not heavy metal, you know, it's not so aggressive, and there's more sort of light and shade in East of Lyra, and you know, we sort of like, in a way, painting with like sort of different colours, you know, like much more interesting to sort of expand on different kind of sounds and layering. There's a lot more sort of keyboards and atmospheric parts in there, which is good. So I would say, you know, if people out there are into sort of Yes and Rush and Genesis and maybe sort of Pink Floyd and stuff, I think they're going to really, really love this album, you know. So it's much more sort of structured and layered, and there's greater sort of emphasis placed on storylines, really. So that's what makes it pleasing for me, because it's a completely different discipline.
And how do you feel East of Lyra fits into the modern rock scene?
Oh yeah, well, there's when we're out there sort of on tour, like in America and Europe and stuff, I can see there's just you know, there's a lot of prog rock fans who really love Cloven Hoof, because they like sort of the intricacies of the sort of epic sort of sound which we've got, and you know, a lot of them were saying, you know, like you know, you really ought to make a prog album, you know, like do a big concept piece, which I've done concept pieces before, like in heavy metal, like with Dominator, and that's the cool thing about sort of science fiction. I like the, you can be really sort of imaginative, but you can tackle today's issues, and if you set it in the future, you can use it like a metaphor for things, and you won't get into so much trouble. I think like with Dominator, we tackle the dangers of genetic engineering. That they grafted a mouse on an ear, but how right? Just because we can do something, is that the right thing to do? So the cool thing is, with the sort of East of Lyra, you can tackle these kind of sort of interesting subject matter and explore it further. So it's a return to some of the big long epic tracks, which it's wonderful sort of exploring songs and getting the most out of it, and it doesn't have to fit in like a 4-minute kind of format anymore. So I think it gives you musical freedom, and you can use your imagination, and that's what I really love about East of Lyra.
Fantastic. If there's anything you could change about the industry, what would you change?
Well, I think it's a shame now, because it seems to be there's a lot of people with suits who just treat it completely as business, instead of they're missing out on the point. Well, it should be about music, really, and that because there's so many sort of they like to really pigeonhole bands and make everything aim towards the lowest common denominator. They just want hit singles, or and they think all music should be like that, instead of having respect for different genres and things. And I guess it's sort of with heavy metal and prog rock. People are too savvy to kind of fall for that. They make their own minds up, and all the marketing tricks which seem to work for all these sort of pop groups, it doesn't apply, because it's kind of thinking men's music, if you will, and I love that, because it keeps music kind of pure. And it's a shame today that there's just so many people with suits, and I think business is being end all, instead of encouraging an artist and trying to let them make the best music possible. A lot of bands today are told what to do, and which is a shame, because in sort of back in the sort of 70s and 80s, bands were just sort of left alone and just be creative, which that's kind of stifled a little bit today. The good thing about sort of prog rock and heavy metal today is it's more unspoilt, if you will, and it's making music for its own sake, rather than just the bottom line, which a lot of labels are doing. So that's what's so cool about the independent labels. They can keep music sort of real.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely agree with you. Again, we've kind of touched on this, but how has the rock scene changed over the years, and are there challenges that exist today that didn't exist back in the day?
Well, I suppose the biggest sort of change is the advent of the internet, and it's kind of a double-edged sword. It gives a chance for bands who probably nobody would have ever heard of. It gives them a chance to sort of put their music out there, and it's like running a flagpole and see who salutes it. It gives them a chance to get an audience and be exposed sort of worldwide, which they wouldn't have had the chance to before the internet. So that's great. But unfortunately, you get a lot of stuff which is just saturating the market out there. So it's harder to pick your way through to the genuine good stuff. But I suppose at the end of the day, if a band's good enough, then the cream kind of always seems to rise to the top. And the internet has give kind of free will sort of back to the people, which can only be a good thing, can't it, really?
No, absolutely. So what's the next project?
I'm going to be writing the next sort of Lyra album, which will be cool. I'm going to sort of work on it in the next couple of months. We've got a show in September for Mia Fest, so that'll be great. That'll be our kind of debut show, and it's down in London for a very, very good cause, so everybody can see what all the panic's about. There's a different emphasis with Lyra, because like with Cloven Hoof, because it's sort of dynamic and sort of aggressive, and we're kind of playing to the back of house. Lyra's a different sort of catfish because there's an emphasis on musical excellence, and it's a lot more harder to play some of the sections, you know, like, so there's much more sort of emphasis on trying to get the sound absolutely perfect. So that's a really, really good discipline, and you know, I can't imagine us being static on stage. I think it's impossible, but because everything's so well structured, we're going to be placing all the emphasis on playing the tracks as well as we possibly can. So that'll be cool. And there'll be a Cloven Hoof live video from Bang Your Head, released probably March next year. So there's a lot to sort of keep us busy.
Fantastic. And do you have any advice for any up and coming bands?
Yeah, that's a good one. Well, I think if I had to pick one thing, I would say to young bands, when you start out, try and just pick the people, you know, who are the best musicians you can possibly get, and make sure that they're you know, you get on really well, because you're going to get a lot of problems and stuff. So if everybody gets on well, you can deal with all the adversity really easy. And the second, well, you know, hold on to your publishing, because that was a real bad mistake of mine, like in the early days, you know, because you're young and you sort of get the chance to make an album, but they want your publishing, and because you're young and green, you don't realise that publishing is really the key to the whole thing. And when people are going to cover your songs and stuff, you'll be really annoyed with yourself that you gave your publishing away. So bands out there, hold on to your publishing.
Is there anyone you'd like to collaborate with?
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's so many really. I mean, we've all got our heroes, and you know, I would absolutely love to work with Neil Peart or Rush. That would be, I'm like, I've got to make every Lee Payne. I'm such a huge Rush fan. It would be incredible to work with, and Alex Lifeson, I guess, you know, like, and I love Yes, Steve Howe, you know, someone that I've always admired mainly, and you know, the one perk of the job, you know, you get to meet these people, you know, along the way, and it's, you know, I'm still such a huge fan, you know, like, and you know, as long as I still love doing it, you know, and I've sort of retained my sort of interest after all these years, you know, like I still get excited meeting heroes. As long as I do that, then I'll just keep on making music, you know.
Do you have any crazy rock and roll stories?
We have got a lot of them. We can't repeat half of them. I remember a time like when we kind of first started out. It was difficult to kind of get a singer, like at the time. I think singers are quite difficult to find the right one, and so we were like three like green musicians. You know, there's me, the guitarist, and the drummer. And we went to the local radio station, and Rob Alford and Judas Priest was the guest on the show. So we sat on the wall, we were waiting for him to come out, you know, like stuff. And he came out, he went, oh, you know, took one look at us, went, you've got to be a band, you know, we were sitting there like the Three Monkeys, hear no evil, see no ill, speak no ill. And he said, you know, like, have you got any demo tapes? And I went, oh, we're looking for a singer, and I just said, you all do. You know, like, and he went, with an attitude like that, he went, that's exactly what you need. He went, you know, for that, let's go and have a listen to what stuff you've got. And we went, yeah, they opened up the radio station again, and he listened to it, and he went, well, that's never you. This sounds like 30-year-old guys, you know, like, there's no way you lot can play like this. And then we assured him, you know, it was us. And he said, "Tell you what, when you get a singer, like I'd really like to hear this, like." And he like took my phone number and everything. And then you don't think you'll hear anything, And he was just like being nice, kind of thing. Well, next time he went to Beacon Radio, I had a phone call from my mum. My mum went, "Somebody called Rob has just like rang you up." I went, "No way." And he did, and he said, "Did you find that singer and stuff?" And I went, "Actually, yeah, we did." He went, "We're at this pub." So we went and met him, and and lo and behold, we played him the tape and stuff. And he went, "If this is really, really good, like he said, I'm gonna play it for a few people for you." And it was great, we were just like thrilled, because he was such a hero for us. And in the end, because Rob Halford took the tape in to Radio 1, he helped get us a session on Tommy Vance, the producer of Tommy Vance, when Rob Halford's brought your tape in. And we'd like to offer you, a spot on, Friday Rock Show, which everybody wanted to go on. It was so important, that show. And that's how we got our break, really. And they played our 4-track sessions, recorded at Meadow Vale, and then we got the record deal offers, from it. So that was like really, really cool for a band just starting out. And you just don't realise how lucky you were, to have a start like that, So we kind of went from nothing to we haven't even got a singer yet, and and Rob Halford was so kind to take it in. And funnily enough, we went to find Robert Plant, just to see, playing, giving the tape, and just see what he thought. And we found out kind of where he lived, and we were just putting the tape in his like mailbox. And I was wearing a Wolves football shirt, and Rob sort of came walking up, and he went, "Like the shirt," and he said, "You a band?" I went, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, you just put this demo tape in." He said, "Let's have a look." All right, I'll give it a listen, if it's any good. And he went to Tommy Vance as well. So when we got the session, we had Rob Halford and Robert Plant both taking our tape. So the producer, Tony Wilson, said we had to give you the session, like, how many more people do you know? Kind of thing. So yeah, that was cool. So, they took that in, and then 40 years later I'm still doing it, so that can't be bad. So thanks Rob Halford, thanks Robert Plant, they didn't have to do that, and it was just super cool, to do that.
Cool. When are your next, what are your tour dates coming up?
Well, we're sort of getting sort of Christmas out of the way, and then obviously we'll be going back to America, and there's loads of sort of shows kind of being lined up for us at the moment. They usually get sort of cleared up sort of early January when that we're doing, but we're doing the Lyra Mia Fest in September in London. That'll be brilliant. So sort of January, we sort of get Christmas out of the way, and then everybody kind of starts booking you for January. So there'll definitely be like America, and there'll be festivals like in Europe too. We always do loads of festivals and stuff. So we wait for those to come in now. So
fantastic. And is there a message you want to tell your fans?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, once again, if you like sort of Rush, Genesis, and those sort of prog bands, then East Lyra will be right up your street. You're going to love this album. I'm really, really proud of it. It's been a long time coming. I think it's definitely some of the best music I've ever been part of, and it's also sort of some of the most enjoyable too. The guys in the band, Chris Dando, Ash Baker, and Mark Bristow, and Ben Fitzharris. They'd like to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas, as I would, and enjoy the new album, and see you next year.
Okay, thanks very much.
Absolutely.